Yes, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to your favourite football fan channel, Real Reds Talk. Lots to discuss. Quite a few things coming out this morning, creeping into the afternoon. We're going to talk about the Glazers. There's been an article released by Laurie Whitwell. It's got a few interesting little gems in there that we're going to touch on. We're going to talk about Fred's potential departure. News broke last night after we was live talking about Andre Onana and basically Damartio kind of announcing that. So yeah, there was news about that at Galatasaray and other clubs that are potentially interested. Harry Kane's entourage still believe United is still an option for him, so we're going to talk about Harry Kane as well. And just a little one that got mentioned in the chat then, Dusan Tadic, his contract has been terminated, so would you take Tadic for squad depth? We'll touch on that as well. So as always, make sure you smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't see any of our shows yesterday, there was 3 of them, all brilliant. Make sure you go check them out. We had an interview with James from the Muppeteers, where he was very insightful on the takeover, transfers, all that other stuff. And we went live for Onana last night as well. So make sure you check that out. But let's dive into it together today. Shreyas, first and foremost, how are you doing on this fine day? Looking forward to the show. Yeah, just give me your overall.
Yeah, very, very happy. It's been a good day, and some really, really good news coming in yesterday night as well. That Onana to United is pretty much done, and
Yes,
he'll be joining up with the team soon as well. So it's a very good sign that we've managed to pull off 2 signings before the season starts. And maybe the third one could also be on its way. You never know. We're still working on some outgoings as well. Will they be able to actually generate some cash and able to fund another transfer as well? Because I think we are in a position where we will definitely pull off 3 signings in total in this window. I think if we have some good outgoings, then probably a fourth one could be slipped in right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to discuss that. I want to kick things off with the Glazers. And to everyone in the chat, pick up yourselves. We'll read out some very, very shortly. So good morning to you all. Hope you're having a nice day so far. And the Glazers are kind of shit on it a little bit. A little bit like when you're out for a day in England near the seaside and you've got your ice cream in your hand, you've got your mini donuts and your chips, and a seagull decides to either rob and take it out of your hand or decides to shit on you. And that's basically what the Glazers have done today. So Laurie Whitwell released an article from MJ Shrimper. I don't know who that is, but they've written the article themselves. There's been no... And part of the article basically says this: there's been no communication between the sellers of Manchester United and any potential buyer since Sheikh Jassim's last bid for the club in early June. And when we take a look back at the timeline, Treyas, they announced strategic alternatives in November. They had numerous rounds of bids. We heard that it might be done by April. Then it continued bidding. We then heard Ratcliffe is winning the race, is very, very close. And then Sheikh Jassim comes in with a 5th and final bid. Then we get reports from Bloomberg and Reuters about exclusivity. Rio announcing Qatar, basically. And then Ratcliffe coming out the other week at that kind of book launch, talking about it, saying, we still believe he's still in the race. We've not really heard anything. Do you still believe that the Glazers are going to sell the club in your heart of hearts?
I think they would be able to. I don't think they're in a position to stay with the club because there are just too many minority ownerships. There are too many minority stakeholders at the club that have actually made it very, very difficult for a very good minority investment to come in and support the Glazers side by side. Because the thing is, the Glazers right now, they don't need minority investment. They need a lot of cash. They need to rebuild the stadium, rebuild the training ground, invest back into the team, and alongside that, they've got a lot of investment to do in the back areas, and we have an ever piling debt as well. So they don't just, it's not a question of just having 500 million or 700 million in your bank through a minority investment. They genuinely need 2 to 3 billion actually to take Manchester United out of this financial ruin that they put us in. So I really don't think that they're going to stay. I think that maybe it's just a controversial topic in between the Glazers. I think that there is still no unanimous decision among all those cousins about selling or continuing with the club. But I think hopefully by the time the season starts, we'll be hearing something positive about it, and probably whoever has to win the club is able to come in and actually steady the ship for us. Because I think right now, even if the Glazers stay, no matter through which way they manage to say, it is going to put them in a loss eventually. Because overall, they need to put in the funds at the end of the day into the club if they are still the owners. So I really don't see a good option as to where I see them staying at the club. But I genuinely think that there's a really really small percentage of a chance of them actually extending their stay at the club.
Well, my opinion is starting to sway by the minute, honestly. The more stuff I read and the more things I hear. And we were speaking to James about it yesterday, who has quite a good insight on the situation. And he's just basically saying, look, all the speculation that's coming out, all the reports from whether it's the Time Sport or, whether it's something coming out of Qatar, no one genuinely knows. Like, it just seems like it's the Glazers who are keeping very tight-lipped in the situation. We know they're not bothered, like what United fans think, what people in the media think. It just in general, they couldn't give a bollocks. As long as they hit that £6 billion figure, that's all they want. And maybe that's why they're dragging out a bit. Maybe like just sat there saying, look, if we just go quiet on this situation, it applies pressure on both sides, and maybe we will squeeze a little bit more out of it. Ultimately, the Rain Group, their job, right, is to squeeze as much money out of this as possible. Now, what kind of methods they use in doing that, they're not bothered. Their job is solely that. They don't care about what the public think. They don't care about any of that. They will do whatever they want to try and get to that point. I don't see any more bids going in at this point. I'd be very surprised because Sheikh Jassim's his fifth and final. If he then puts in another one, their public persona and reputation for buying things and big business transactions then gets exploited, doesn't it? Because you can't just say, oh, we're not going to do that, and then you give them the $6 billion that they want. So then next time when you go into a big deal like this, like, well, we'll just sit and wait, because that's what the Glazers did, and then they got the money. So absolute bollocks. I'm going to read out a couple of comments and then I'll ask you a couple more questions, Shreyas, on this takeover situation. Lucky Singh saying, I want both removed today, 14 million to 21 million. I'm assuming that means Fred. Brian Casey, morning. Nick and Shreyas, good morning to you, Brian Casey. Your legend, of course, is a real Red Ultra member. The Onana video is dropping in 40 minutes, by the way. So for all the members, the analytical look at Onana, how can he revolutionise Eric Ten Hag, Manchester United, just basically what it's all about, and how he played it into Milan. That is dropping in 40 minutes for all the members. So I hope you enjoy that one. Brian Casey is saying Tadic on a free. Absolutely. We'll get on that. We'll touch on that, towards the end. People discussing Elanga. Read out. STP Mitchell says, yo, everyone, hope everyone's amazing. Have an amazing day. Glazers out. Absolutely. I love that message. Consistent message there. Yahuza Mohammed saying, fuck the Glazers. Absolutely. Even for a morning show, I'm happy to read that out. I don't know why it's saying don't. I'll show that comment because that shouldn't be being hid. What the question is, Shreyas, I'm not expecting you to have kind of insight knowledge on this or whatever, but what else could they possibly be doing? Do you think? What in your head? What do you think the situation is going on behind closed doors? Even if you was to just speculate,
I think they're just trying for Qatar to actually raise their bid by just the smallest of margins. I think that it just comes down to the fact that they want to take as much money as they can possibly out of this. And right now they know that they have the time to actually play that card of wanting more from either of the parties. And I think even they know that Sir Jim Ratcliffe doesn't have that kind of financial power to actually provide them with 6 billion upfront. They know that Qatar is the only option of both the bidders that who can actually produce that sort of money for them. And I think that's why they're just stalling this, because if it comes down to the cards now and they have to pick who to actually sell the club to, Qatar has the higher bid. And so Qatar, right now, Qatar are the winners of this bid if they want to sell. And that is the reason why Qatar aren't upping their bid. The only times that we've seen Qatar to actually raising their bid has always been after a Sir Jim Ratcliffe bid. But Sir Jim Ratcliffe hasn't been able to react to the Qatar bid now. So it means that Qatar is leading the race. If the Glazers come to a decision, Qatar will be the owners there in themselves. But I think it just comes down to the fact that they want more money. Maybe it is because there is not a unanimous decision between them. So I think after, except these two scenarios, everything is pretty much open to speculation because no one knows anything. For the first time, I would say, about Manchester United, no article, no news outlet, no one actually knows anything because it is just down to the Glazers to actually make a decision regarding this. When they decide to sell the club, then these news outlets will actually have something to discuss.
I don't know, Jeff, has it? I must have missed that.
We don't know. Simply, basically, we don't. It's crazy that they've not put a single penny of their own money into the club, and they're now demanding £6 billion of something they inherited.
Exactly.
Sorry, the dad bought it, and he didn't buy it for his own money. I think it was like 100 or £200 million of his own money, and then the rest was loaded on the club, and then they're trying to maximise it. That's why I describe him as it's such a vulture thing to do, to kind of sit there and be like, no.
And the only reason they've actually decided to sell the club now is because they need to put in funds of themselves to actually keep the club steady, and they don't want to do that. That's the reason why they're selling the club.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, Trey, as we put a poll up at the start of the show saying, do you think the Glazers will still sell? Very close. 53% said yeah, and 47% said no. So, and I imagine if we would have put that poll up about a month ago when that fifth and final bid went in, I reckon about 90% would have said yeah, and 10% would have said no.
Yeah.
You can see that pendulum kind of swinging now, can't you? Back to where they're like, maybe they might stay.
I think the reaction from the fans, if I still think that it is highly unlikely they will stay, but if it comes out that the Glazers are staying, the outrage and outburst from the fans would be something that they would never have even predicted to happen at Old Trafford.
Yeah. We was joking yesterday when we finished the Onana show, we were chatting after it a bit, and we were saying, can we imagine if you got an exclusive with the Glazers, like you got get an interview live on a show, what that would do, like on YouTube, it'd absolutely blow up. And then what we'd do is we'd get as much information out of them as much as we possibly can about the rain, and in the last 10 minutes, we'd just do a roast of the Glazers, and we get people say, throw your super chats in, get whatever it is in, and whatever you want to say to them, we'll absolutely throw it now and just stay there 5-10 minutes and just give him a piece of our mind, which would be very nice. But we don't live in that reality, unfortunately, and we can't get the Glazers on. But I imagine that would be absolutely massive. Stanley's saying, why isn't the UK government, what? Oh, sorry. Why isn't the UK government not getting involved in this? I mean, well, there will be Premier League checks. And I assume with Newcastle, with the Saudi owners, and obviously Man City with their owners as well, it's already taken over. And then you had the Chelsea situation, which Roman Abramovich is kind of state-owned a little bit. But I imagine they'll pass it. They're not going to turn down an offer at this. And then the business agreements with Qatar as well, globally.
Exactly. And the point is, this thing will only get to the UK government only when the Glazers approve the bid from Qatar. Till then, nothing is going to happen.
Yeah, it's an absolute joke at the minute. Brian's saying the Glazers won't care what fans on the media say. They'll do whatever suits them, absolutely. And DJ Superfly guys says it's a joke. They better sell. Yeah, it's getting to that point now, isn't it? It's gone past frustration almost. We're sat here for 7-8 months' time. How can you take that long to sell a club? I know these things do take time, but there's been 5 rounds of bidding. 5 rounds. It's crazy. And when it's weird because when it first got announced, I was shouting from the rooftops. Even for anyone to take over, I was like, oh my God, yes, absolutely. And just like the Jadon Sancho transfer, all the joy and the feeling about it's just been completely removed. Exactly. And we're sat here now to be honest, just fucking announce it. We don't care who it is. It will be a lot of people still care who it is. But
it would come out when you least expect it. Genuinely, it will come out when you least expect it.
Yeah.
At that moment, it'll come out, whatever the decision is.
Honestly, Shreyas, I think it's going to be into the new season now. I do. I think September. Yeah. If they do, I'm starting to think they might stay, and they might, because a lot of the thing that's been coming out is the stuff about the new Champions League format where you get there's 5 teams in there now, and then there's more revenue in certain ways. United are becoming, I think James was saying yesterday they made the record profits from last season, and that was when they were in the Europa League, by the way. So when they're in the Champions League, the money's going to be even more. And the Glazers know that. So they're just sat there saying, well, look, we can stay if we want. We can take this investment and buy the stadium and blah, 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 and all this absolute bollocks. It's painful. It's very, very painful. Sam said, I've had a price submitted for a house, pulled out of it, bid for another house, been accepted, and we'll move into it before they sell this club. There you go. There you go. Callum Huddleston saying, Glazers out. Big up to you, Callum. Remember that video's dropping, the Onana video's dropping in 30 minutes, so make sure you go check that out for the members. And then Yahuza says, whatever they're planning will never work, especially based on the money they want to get for the sale, because I don't think anyone walks in and offers $6 billion after turning the club to a mid-table team. It's interesting. Very, very interesting. Right, let's move on to Fred then, because we mentioned we'd talk about that. Late last night, Shreyas, Galatasaray approached Manchester United to sign Fred. Opening proposal already submitted, rejected by United. The fee was below expectations. Saudi clubs, Fulham, and more Premier League clubs are also working on signing him. What do you think the correct fee is for Fred? Are you happy for him to go? I know you've spoken about him before. And was this a little bit of a shock to you, the news that broke last night?
To be honest, it wasn't that much of a shock because judging of last season and the way that he was deployed last season, it was obvious that Ten Hag was making use of him in certain games
Yeah.
because he had no other option but to play him. He had no other choice. He couldn't play McTominay, and he knew that Fred was a better alternative to McTominay. Secondly, Fred's contract is running out as well. If you judge the last season according to Fred's standards, he's had a very decent season. And this is the only opportunity that you can actually cash out on Fred. And considering Galatasaray are in for him, Saudi clubs are in for him, Fulham are in for him desperately as well. So it shows that you've got at least 3 to 4 potential alternatives for Fred. And if any Saudi club wants him and they're ready to pay like 35 or 40 million, genuinely let go of Fred. Like 35 to 40 million is the most you can actually get out of Fred in an ideal situation. But I think considering the kind of competition we have, at least 20 to 25 million would be a good offer for Fred. At least 20 to 25.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure. And if you think of the potential sales that could go through, if we could sell Henderson for 30, I know we always say this in United fans, if we could sell him and sell this, but it actually seems like this movement deals, so it's not like we're talking bollocks. If we could sell Fred for 2025, sell Henderson for 30.
Even let's just talk 20. I think even not 25. Even if we say Fred goes for 20, Elanga goes for 15, Dean Henderson goes for 25.
Yeah, Elanga for FFP as well, and Henderson as well. Like that's
so 20,
50 million
£50 million plus 25 again. That's 60.
Yeah, you got your
60 million
striker.
itself. You've got yourself a striker.
Yeah, well, effectively, we've still got 20 million of the budget because I think we signed Onana and Mount for under like 97, I think it was. But then obviously you got the add-ons and stuff which will be paid in the future. Yeah. So yeah, we've still got 20 million of the budget there. You sell Fred, you sell Elanga, you sell Dean Henderson to get recouped 70 million for them. I think that's fantastic.
You work with a budget of 85 million to get one striker. If you want.
Yeah, and hopefully it's not bloody.
Yeah,
hopefully it's not Rasmus that they're spending that on.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Exactly.
Well, before we go on.
I think if you're going to pay 85 million, then rather go for Kane. Rather go for someone else.
Yes.
Because if you're going for Rasmus Højlund, then you need to go in for someone else as well in supplement to Rasmus Højlund. You cannot pay 85 million pounds for Rasmus Højlund.
Oh man, it's crazy numbers. Yeah. Absolutely crazy. And we've actually got an update on Harry Kane as well. Janard Fjordcroft, sorry. Very good connections in Germany and stuff. It says Harry Kane's entourage still believe Manchester United is still an option on the table. Bayern Munich is the only option abroad. But do you think this only happens if the new owners come in? Do you see a world where maybe we will make enough sales and we bring in a Harry Kane? Because I think it's still needed. If you're going to bring in a young striker, I don't just want the young striker on his own. I want I need to know a killer number 9 to compete with the likes of Erling Haaland for that golden boot. So where you at with the Harry Kane thing at the minute? You still feeling optimistic about it, or?
I think it's very unrealistic this season because we all know that Daniel Levy isn't the kind of guy who would want a player on the levels of Harry Kane to actually join a rival club, especially one who would be, I would say, still be serious contenders for getting top 4 or top 3 this season because the transfer window isn't still shut. We made massive improvement in the midfield. We made massive improvement in the goalkeeping situation as well. Might be getting another midfielder, might be getting a couple of strikers. There are many alternatives out there. So I really find it hard to believe that Tottenham would make such a move as to, giving us Harry Kane because they're still rejecting 80 million bids from Bayern. So I still believe that 85 million would be considered a bit too less for Harry Kane. I think next season, Harry Kane could become a Manchester United player, because his contract runs out. I think next season would be a much better position for Manchester United to be in for Harry Kane. I think this season, because of the shortage of funds, Harry Kane, I think he'll just be a little too expensive, and till that time we'll need to actually work out something else.
But then there's much more competition, and that's the risk with it. With that, it's like Mason Mount. If we didn't sign him this, even though he wanted to come to United, a lot of things happen in the year. Maybe we fall out of the job. Like you just don't know what can happen. So football changes very, very quickly. That would be one thing that I worry about. And if it's on a free, that's absolutely fine. His wages will be astronomical, but he is 31. He'll be pushing on a little bit. But yeah, that was something. We're not even mentioning the wages that are going off the bill. With David De Gea's gone, Dean Henderson goes, Fred goes as well. Elanga goes. You're probably talking about over £500,000 a week there. What they're getting off the books.
Easily.
So someone asked about Alex Telles there, and that was another thing. Like I don't think it's more about the fee. I don't think we'll get a massive fee. It might even be a loan, but the wages off the books is important.
I think he leaves. I think Telles would leave, and it will be. I think 10 million would be the most that we will be able to recoup off him.
Yeah. At a
And
push as well, to be
but
honest,
right
because he
now, I would
hasn't
say
been.
even 10 million, right? For us, 10 or 15 million outgoings as well are going to work miracles for us in the transfer window, because overall
Yeah.
it adds to our transfer budget. And I think out of all the managers that we've had up until now, Ten Hag is the one who's actually looking so closely to this fee, so
Yeah.
closely to these transfers. And even when you would say that, that this signing has been overpaid for, it is one of the signings that he considers is going to be very integral to the squad. Whether it's
Yeah.
Mason Mount, whether it's an Onana, whether it was Anthony last season, all of these players who have come in, they have maintained their position in the starting 11. And
Mm.
whenever they've been
Yeah.
fit, they've been pushed into the starting 11 no matter what. So I, I think probably if Fred goes, Elanga goes, Dean Henderson goes, Alex Telles goes as well, probably two players or one player might also leave this season, then we'll be working with a very good budget of 100 million. And
Yeah.
with the options that are still going to be available for us on the table, Rasmus Højlund, Kolo Muani, still a Harry Kane question mark. There's going to be Victor Osimhen, Vlahovic. There are many strikers that you can actually go in for. There are still options of Yao Felix as well. So if you got 100
Mm.
million sitting in your bank, you could go in for those players as well. So I think outgoings are going to be the way for us in this transfer window now. Until the time we can't
Yeah.
get them done, it's going to keep delaying that striker move for us.
Mm. I think it's no coincidence as well that you've seen deals move quicker as well because of Ten Hag. He must be demanding behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You can only imagine with certain things. Joe Kicker, I already read that. Sorry, STP Mitchell saying City getting 19 million for not even the backup goalkeeper, and we're taking 15 million for Elanga. Says it all about how we run shambles. Brian saying we could agree a pre-contract agreement with Kane in January. Sam saying we can't. Brian, European clubs can, but Prem can't. Interesting. And then STP says, Brian, I believe that's only for clubs abroad. I could be wrong. Yeah, I think that is true, to be honest with you. But the City comment's interesting. 19 million for a backup goalkeeper like James Trafford. I think he just won the European Championships as well, the under 21s for England. He's a decent goalkeeper. But I thought, to be honest, this may just be me. I don't know how you feel about this, Shreyas, but I thought we'd only get 10 million for Elanga. So if we get to 15 to 20.
Yeah,
I think that's a good
for a
price.
player,
personally.
for a winger who hasn't played at all.
Played 40
last
games,
season.
I think. That's it.
Exactly.
Like, in total, his whole career.
Wasn't impressive in any of those games either. Massively fell down the pecking order. I think it's a good move.
I agree.
15 million is a very good move. And, except that, James Trafford going for 19 million, I still think, players like Rain Brewster went in for 25 or 30 million, those sort of figures. So anything can happen in football, especially with English players. And Elanga isn't an English player, so 15 million for that youngster, whether it is going to be a destination to Everton, I don't really mind. I think 15 million is too good of an offer. I think last season James Garner for 10 or 15 million was a move. I would say that it was underpriced because I think he had much more potential. But with Elanga, I think it's the perfect fee.
Yeah, and if you go get an Amrabat who's quoted for like 25 million pounds, you can sell Elanga for 20. Like, it's not, you add an extra 5 on, so that's not much, is it?
It adds a much more quality and better option for us to actually play in the midfield.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to touch on the last topic very, very shortly, but it's 27 of guys in the chat. Thank you very much for tuning in this wonderful morning. Make sure you leave a like on the video for us, subscribe to the channel, and the Onana video is dropping in 20 minutes time for the members, for the official members. So if you want to become a member, click the join button or the link is in the description. Last topic, Shreyas. Someone mentioned it in the chat before in our WhatsApp that Tadic, I think Adam mentioned it, that Tadic has had his contract terminated. Is that something you would look at for squad depth at all?
No. No, I think
I'm the same. Yeah.
I don't. Even if we went in for him, I don't really see where he would actually fit into the squad because we are saturated on the wings. Right now, we are saturated in that number 10 position, and he isn't a player who can function as a 6 or a 8. So Tadic isn't a player who would fit into United. I get the appeal as to why people would want him. Like he's worked under Ten Hag. Ten Hag was able to actually reinvent him into a very good player for Ajax. But of the left wing position, you've got the likes of Marcus Rashford, you've got Jadon Sancho, you've got Garnacho. On the right hand side as well, you've got Anthony, you've got Ahmad, you've got Pellistri, you've got a complete fresh batch of youngsters who are ready to take those positions. And in the 10, now you've got Mason Mount, you've still got Donny van de Beek at the club, you've still got Bruno Fernandes at the club. So there is no way that, I would say that Tadic actually comes in and takes any of those positions in. And so I don't really, and he's 34 now. So I don't.
I was just about to say that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's very, very old. I don't see a world where I would say that Bruno is not better than Tadic, or even Mason Mount is not better than Tadic, or any of our wingers. I would say Ahmad is better or just on the level of Dusan Tadic right now. I would genuinely say that. So I really don't see Tadic coming into our team and making us improve. So it
What's the point of bringing him in?
Exactly. There's no point of bringing him in. So wherever he goes to, I don't think that United is going to be the destination for him. Right now, we need a striker. If there is a striker who is available on a free and is young, that's where United should be working.
Yeah. The only situation I consider, if he's going to accept ridiculously low wages, I don't know, like for 20 grand a week or whatever, and he just wants a place to play football. No, of course not. Of course, that's going to happen. I'm speaking hypotheticals here, but if he was, that's what I mean. That's the only way I'd kind of accept him at the club and say, like, look, he still has something, maybe in cup games and stuff like that they can bring.
Exactly.
Don't forget this. This guy he weren't great at Southampton. That's why he moved it from there, because he just wasn't great in the Premier League. He moved to Ajax and he was fantastic for it. Had performances at the Bernabeu where he was amazing, but that was a good few years ago. We're talking, I think that's like 4 years ago or something. So he's not the same player anymore. Well, so a long time ago, which tells you everything you need to know. 34 years old. I'm sure Ten Hag appreciates him as a person and as a player, but I just don't see that happening, to be honest.
Exactly.
Interesting now the rest of the window develops. So in its Reyes, you've got, it seems like we've got Onana in now, Mason Mount, which I'm sure you'll be happy about as well. Moving on to the striker situation now, if you can't spend 85 million on Rasmus, what do you do with that? What do you do going forward?
Actually figure out which striker to get. And if you've got 100 million, then go for the striker that Ten Hag wants on his priority list on the first. Because I think...
Have we got 100 million though? That's the question, isn't it?
If we are able to get Fred, Elanga, Dean Henderson, Alex Telles, Eric Bailly out of the club, then we'll be circling around that 95 million mark. If we are able to get McTominay out of the club as well, we'll be circling around that 120 or 130 million mark.
But I think they only sell one out of Fred and McTominay. Exactly. I don't think they sell both, to be honest.
Then Donny might leave as well. So if Donny moves, that's another 15 million you can actually add.
I don't think we get a fee for Donny either, to be honest with you. I think he goes out on loan at best, because I just don't see it. I don't see a team paying for him because he's had not successful loan spells. He's been out injured for a long time. Not had a lot of game time. I think that he either
leaves or stays. I don't think he goes out on loan now.
I think back to Ajax is probably the best move for him, to be honest with you. Like,
at least, even if we get 10 or 10 million for him, I think at least 10 million would be good for him, because he has to play
I take it. But I think what they're going to do is send him out on loan, get him some minutes, get exposure on him to see what kind of player, and then you'll get maybe a few clubs in Europe.
I think, but still, realistically, we'll still be working with a 70 million or 80 million budget for a striker, because Fred will surely go, Elanga will surely go, and Dean Henderson will move as well, 100%. So you've got 80 million or 70 million to work with, and there are decent options of strikers that could fit into that bill. You've still got the option of going in for João Felix. You still got the option for going in for someone like a Kolo Muani, or someone like a Vlahovic could still be available on the cards. And except that you've got a good era of young strikers going in as well. If you want to explore that option and go in for someone cheaper, like a 15 million or 20 million offer, I would pretty much be happy with that as well, because we could still go in for a developmental striker.
Yeah, I think there could be a surprise on the cards, to be honest with you. If Atalanta, tough with negotiations, same geezer who did the Maguire negotiation, because they're asking for £80 million. It was the chief negotiator. I can't remember the guy's name, but and then they're asking for 80 for Rasmus. I'm like, I don't. I know Ten Hag wants him.
At max, he's a £40 million player. At max.
And 50 at a push. Like that's if Ten Hag really wants to be like, okay, maybe we could work out some add-ons or something like that. £85 million, don't pay that for that. That bought, I know it was a long time ago, but that bought Cristiano Ronaldo after he just won a Ballon d'Or when he moved to Real Madrid.
Exactly my point.
This is a young kid who scored 9 goals. He's
Haaland went for 60 million.
Yeah, he's good, but he's a raw talent in it. Like, you got to be careful with them kind of figures. So it'd be interesting to see how they develop on that and what kind of way they go with it. Maybe they'll turn their attention to someone like a Gonzalo Ramos. Who knows?
Because Giancarlo Ramos had a clause available for 70 million or 65 million, somewhere around those marks. So,
well, I heard it was 100, but then Benfica are willing to move on it. So I don't know the situation. I'll try to get clarity on that situation. Yeah, I don't know what it actually is. Brian Case saying United tax works both ways. Add 40% when we're buying and take away 40% when we're selling. Amnat Chowdhury says it doesn't matter what you think. All right, nice one. Cheers for that, mate. Well, it clearly does because you're watching. So, and he says Bruno is a pillar for Manchester United. I mean, we agree on that. So fair enough. DJ Superfly guy says sell all our surplus players to Saudi League. I've got a clip dropping on in 15 minutes about that, about Saudi. I mentioned that on the show yesterday. PS says, but now that Tadic has gone from Ajax, this means Donny might go back on loan at the minimum, potentially. Yeah. He's saying 85 million is a joke. My Teti United says Lucky Singh wants Rahul Gandhi and Sheikh Jassim. Don't know who that is. Do you know who that is, Shreyas, by any chance?
Not going to comment.
Okay. All right. I'll move on from that very quickly. That says, I think that money we can bring Kolo Muani is much better player than Højlund. But Frankfurt don't need to sell. They know
exactly my point.
The Euros are coming up next season and he's going to be a big star there and all the attention is going to be on him. And if you want to sell, they'll sell for 100 million euros.
The only thing between them is that Kolo Muani is more experienced than Højlund. He's been playing at a top level for more than what Højlund has been playing. But if you go in for Kolo Muani, it won't be a cheap deal.
It'll be very, very
60
expensive.
to 70 million. And for some reason, I just think that, over the years, German attackers who've been coming into the league, they just haven't worked out.
Yeah, it's true. Jadon Sancho, prime example of that. Brian's saying, maybe you should have read that out like The Rock. It doesn't matter what you think. Love it. Love it. Yeah, just a short, snappy show for you guys today. There was bits of news about Fred, Harry Kane, which we've already spoken about, takeover news, Tadic's terminated contract, all that kind of jazz. We thought we'd go live for you guys. We'll be live later on. I'm sure there'll be more news kind of developing. Keep an eye out for that Onana video dropping in 15 minutes. If you want to become a member, the link is in the description. Help support the channel. You get exclusive content every single week, a badge next to your name, and other cool little features as well. So if you want to become an ultra, click that join button or the link in the video description. Big up to everyone. Big up to Shreyas for joining me. Me battery's dying, Shreyas, so try not to do a monologue towards the end.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. And we'll be live again today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, cheers.
See you too. Yeah.
Nice one, guys. You're all legends. Appreciate every single one of you.